Okay, well, good afternoon, or I guess still good morning to Tiffany Black, who
Yes, for
is,
me it's morning.
yeah, so she has joined us for this Meet the Pros, and thank you very much to everybody who has made time in their day to come and meet with Tiffany and learn a little bit, or hopefully a lot, about her experiences and her journey to be where she is today, and hopefully to ask some questions and think of, or for Tiffany to give us some advice about what students and people can do as they're looking ahead for their careers and what the future may hold, whatever that may be in the coming months, years ahead of us. So I will leave Tiffany to introduce herself, but Tiffany, thank you very much. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. So, Tiffany Black, class of 2002. I know that sounds really, really old, especially as I say it. Uh, but I'm definitely a die-hard Tar Heel. Besides the tchotchkes in the background, I was, telling Chris about how I still travel regularly to support Carolina in both basketball and football. And, I'm quick to talk junk to somebody else about the school for sure. Uh, but I have to say, like, having that Carolina connection has been a huge factor in my career. I couldn't have picked a better journalism school and program to be a part of. It's funny, I was also telling Chris before you guys jumped on, is that when I went to Carolina in the journalism school, it was majority journalism majors and minority was the advertising, marketing, PR side. And I know that has flipped, which makes complete sense given where the industry and businesses have gone. But yeah, I never took a PR or marketing or any type of class like that because I was like, I am a die-hard journalist, right? And now, and we used to see it as the dark side. To go to marketing was to be on the dark side, and now I work on the dark side, and the dark side is not that dark. It's great. So for me, the thing that has been the theme throughout my entire career was the storytelling. So whether I was doing the storytelling as a journalist or doing the storytelling now as a marketer, at the core, it's about telling great stories to people at the right time on the right platforms. Again, so that's whether you're doing it as a journalist or a marketer, it's all about the storytelling, and you have to be able to know how to find those stories, tell those stories, write those stories. Like, um, to be fair and honest, like I literally was just let go from Airbnb because we had a 25% layoff, and I'll talk about that transition for me. But on the team, I was the only marketer that had any journalism experience. So as a result, I was writing everything, all types of copy, whether it was long form, tweet, SMS message, because I had that core journalism background and core writing background. I did a lot of that. So to try to give you a brief snapshot, if I can, of my career, which has been very extensive. I've been very fortunate to have worked both as a journaler and as a marketer, as I've said. And um, when I graduated from Carolina, it was around a similar situation of this. Now, obviously not on the scale of a global pandemic, but we were in a recession. So 2001 to 2002 was my senior year, and we're in a recession. Everybody's scrambling to figure out what they're going to do. A lot of people decided, okay, I'm going to take an internship because they just didn't know what they could get after college. Like, people just weren't hiring. In my case, I actually decided to take a 1 year internship. So at the time, and it's crazy to say this now, but a company called Knight Ridder, which now doesn't even exist anymore, but some of the newspapers that were in the Knight Ridder chain were like the Philadelphia Inquirer, uh, things like that. And so it's crazy to see even now how like the industry has changed and those chains don't exist. But they had a 1 year program, and it was a specialty journalism program. And because at Carolina at the time, my program was called multimedia journalism, I was the multimedia journalism intern in this 1 year program. But right before I was supposed to graduate, at the time, one of the professors at Carolina, he always used to do these fellowships. And one of the fellowships he was able to make happen was a partnership with Rhodes University in South Africa. And so then I had this incredible opportunity to like go to South Africa, but I already had this internship lined up to start right after I was supposed to graduate from Carolina. And in fact, I was going to have to, if I wanted to do the program, I was going to have to delay my graduation. So my degree doesn't even say May of 2002, it says July, because I decided to stay an extra semester to be able to do this program. But it was a difficult conversation to have to go back to the head recruiter and say, hey, I have this incredible opportunity. I never got to travel abroad when I was in school because I was just heads down, taking all my courses. But there's this opportunity to go to South Africa and I don't want to pass it up. What can we do? And it was a huge gamble because they could have been like, you know what, we're taking this internship back. We're going to give it to somebody else or whatever, whatever. But they worked with me and they said, that's great. But what's going to happen is instead of your internship being 1 year, you're only going to get 9 months. So you better rock it. I was like, I'm going to rock it. So I ain't worried about that. So I did it. And it was great to be able to go to South Africa and do that fellowship. While I was there, I built a website about women living with HIV and AIDS. And it was just the most incredible experience that I've ever had. And for me, why I felt like I had to do it is because I was a double major, journalism and African American studies. And people used to always make fun of me. I'm like, what are you going to do with an African American studies degree? Are you going to become a professor? Like, what are you going to do with that? And I was like, this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to build a website about women living with HIV and AIDS in South Africa. That's like, for me, it was like a point of proof that I could bring together the African American studies degree with my journalism degree. Because again, at the core, it's always about great storytelling. So I did that fellowship in South Africa, came back, started working at the Philadelphia Inquirer. And you got to remember now, I'm working from behind, but I'm used to having to work from behind. That's how I've had to deal with it my entire life. Like I grew up very poor in the projects. I was an out-of-state student. I'm originally from Hackensack, New Jersey. So for me, I've always had to fight from behind. I do well in those type of challenges and situations. The more barriers you put up against me, the more I'm going to try and prove you wrong, right? So everybody else had already gone through the orientation. They had been working together for 3 months. And here I am, fresh from South Africa, like having to hit the ground running. Like I said, I excel in those kind of situations. I was fortunate in that when I came to the Philadelphia Inquirer, it was the 10-year anniversary of the X Games, and the X Games was going on in Philadelphia. And the beautiful thing about Carolina is that with the multimedia journalism program, they basically taught us to be backpack journalists. So at the time I had my MacBook, Sony XL1 camera, and I could do any and everything. I could build any website. I could shoot my own video, do my own audio, edit, record, the whole nine. And you'll learn when you get into the industry is that the industry is always behind the technology of what you're learning in school. So literally you get to come in and you have this advantage. And so because I had this advantage of knowing how to do all these things, they were like, hey, can you go every day to the X Games, do interviews, shoot video? And then I would come back to the newsroom and, again, dating myself, use iMovie to be able to edit my videos. They didn't even have Final Cut Pro. We were using Final Cut Pro at Carolina. I was using iMovie to make the video packages that I produce every single day for the website. And again, that was one of the things that propelled me to the forefront. Also, another thing I learned at Carolina, which is now obsolete, is Flash. So I was a Flash developer. And at the time that I was working at the Philadelphia Inquirer, they were reopening the Constitution Center. And so I'm now really dating myself, but back in the day, there was this show, this cartoon on ABC called Schoolhouse Rocks. You guys should go look for it on YouTube. And there used to be these little cartoons like I'm a Bill, and it was like a whole little song and dance of how a bill becomes a law. And so I basically created a Flash game in honor of the Constitution Center reopening with this renovation. But again, all skills I picked up at Carolina that nobody else in the newsroom had. And so I was killing it. And this is within the first 4 months. So like I said, when I go in hard. At the time, the Philadelphia Inquirer decided that they wanted to expand their staff, but in particular to focus on the suburbs. But it also created a opportunity for me. So literally the managing editor, they had 3 managing editors. One of the managing editors pulled me into her office and she said, I know you've only been here 4 months and your internship is supposed to be a full year and you started behind everybody else, but we want to hire you on full time now. And so you could say no and continue to do the internship, but we don't know when your internship ends if there'll still be full-time positions available. So I suggest you take it now. She didn't have to hesitate. The minute she said it was a full-time opportunity, of course I'm not going to continue to stay at an internship. So within 4 months of being an intern that was supposed to be in a 1-year program, I already was hired full-time at the Philadelphia Inquirer. So again, it was taking an opportunity and creating it to be something that I wanted it to be. I actually ended up, though, only staying at the Philadelphia Inquirer for a year, um, because I had great relationships with other newspapers, and particularly because I was on the sports end of things. Like, it's not that many Black women working in sports. And so I was up for three different positions. One was at ESPN, one was at the Houston Chronicle, and one was at the Atlanta Journal Constitution. The reason why I didn't choose ESPN, because I know like everybody's like, oh my God, how could you turn them down? They're like the sports mecca. One, at that age, I just knew like I wanted to have some kind of work-life balance, and like dating wasn't really going to be a thing for me in Bristol. So I was like, that's not going to work. Houston, while I love Houston, it was just too far away. So my mother at the time had never been on a plane before, ever in life. And so I always took that into consideration of like where I moved and operated, because I knew it was going to be limiting in terms of me getting to her, her getting to me. And so with Atlanta, what I loved about it is that it wasn't just sports. I was going to be working actually in features. So it was actually moving from one area that I'd been working in to another. And features gave me all these opportunities to be able to work in home and garden, which is something I'd never did, or food and cooking, music, movies, TV, like all different areas. So I was like, yes, this is the route I want to go. So I took the job at the Atlanta Journal Constitution. And again, I had a really great relationship with them. I always say, what is meant for me will be. And when I was at Carolina, I got offered an internship the same time I got that internship offer from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And the reason why I turned Atlanta down is because it was only going to be a 3-month internship, while Philadelphia was offering me a 1-year internship. But even back then, the recruiter said, you're going to work here. I'm not worried about it. Just keep in touch. And I did. So that's another important thing, to always keep in touch with these recruiters, even if it's just a quick check-in to let them know about like a project you have launched or something that you've done. Like, I was really good at networking and building relationships with recruiters, to the point that there is a recruiter at USA Today who still has the first resume I ever had. And he likes to pull it out and show me and remind me of like my growth. And I'm like, I'm actually embarrassed by that first resume. But but again, it's just to see that growth, and like these recruiters really do track you. So it's not, especially now that they have LinkedIn, like back when I was at Carolina, we didn't have LinkedIn. So like they really do track and follow and see your progress. And like when opportunities come up, as long as you've remained in contact with them, they really do think of you. So I took the job at the Atlanta Journal Constitution, and again, dating myself, I'm an OG in this industry, but I launched one of the first blogs that a newspaper has ever had before, right? Coming out of Carolina. So mind you, at this point, I'm only 2 years out of Carolina and already doing like this amazing, incredible stuff. So the first blog that the Atlanta Journal Constitution launched, one was a politics blog, and then one was mine, and mine was a dating and relationships blog. And how that came up is that every Monday when we'd come in for our staff meeting, we'd, talk about our weekends. And I was talking about my disastrous dating life in Atlanta, but they found it so interesting and funny, and like they felt it was a way to reach into an audience that wasn't traditionally reading the newspaper. And so I began this blog. I wrote it anonymously. My name was, the name of the blog is Misadventures in Atlanta. The blog still exists today. My name was Mia, which is MIA, Misadventures in Atlanta, but it's also my middle name. So it was great that I got to incorporate all of that. I was like, oh, this is like coming all together. Actually, one of my readers is one of the people that still continues the blog to this day. Um, and it just goes to show like it really did reach a particular audience, got to have that community feel and aspect to it. Like people got to engage and talk back to us, and we talked back. So it wasn't just one-way communication. That was what was so great about the blog. The reason why I ended up stopping doing the blog is that I got another great opportunity in Atlanta at the AJC. So it's great to be there and be able to elevate in roles. So another thing I always talked about when I came in on Mondays was sports. I've always been diehard for sports, and of course going to Carolina, that definitely helps. So an opportunity opened for a night online sports editor position. At the time, I was only 25 years old, and it was going to be running a team of 8 people. And I was like, absolutely, I'm going to take this opportunity. Mind you, the schedule was going to be terrible. So I worked Tuesday through Saturday nights, which is horrible when you're 25 years old because you want to be out and about. But, sports are played at night, so you got to work at night. And also just being in a management role, like, I was always a natural leader, but it's completely different when you really become somebody else's manager. And by no means was it an easy transition. So not only did I turn my personal life upside down by choosing to work nights and weekends, but I also had a difficult team member. So I had a woman on my team who was 55 years old. She had been in the newspaper forever, but she had been bounced around multiple times. And I think it was because no one ever really took an interest in her or tried to help develop her into what she was really interested in and good at. And of course, she hated having a 25-year-old manager. Like, that was like the kiss of death. Like, oh, this is the end of my career. And then they stick me with this kid as my boss. So I was like, what can I do to make the situation work? I can't put her on another team. I can't get her the position she wants. So how can I bring some kind of like balance to this woman's life so that she is better to work with, not just with me, because she was bringing the whole team down. Like, nobody else seemed to have the problems with me that she had. And so I literally just like looked at her life and her schedule. And like, for one, like I noticed that she loved to cook. I knew that she loved her cats. It's like, how could I work with this? The biggest thing I noticed was that she always worked nights and weekends. And I was like, you know what? How about this? Because at some points we could alternate and do day shifts or night shifts. So I said to her, look, every other week, I'll work the night shift and you work the day shift on a Saturday instead of having to come in at night. And she literally looked at me and she said, what am I supposed to do if I'm not working? I was like, maybe have a dinner party. You have all those recipes on your desk that I'm sure you want to try. You can invite some friends over. Like, and she just looked at me like I was nuts. Okay. But I did it. Again, sacrificing my own personal life to make this work. And so we alternated where every other week I would work day shift and then work the night shift to cover for her. It was almost instantaneous. She became a nicer person to work with because she finally had some kind of balance. And it was literally something as simple as just giving her some time to actually do exactly what I said. She did these dinner parties and then she would like bring in the leftovers on Mondays. Like, she became a much nicer and easier person to work with. So sometimes when you're working with people, especially in management roles, the issues they may have may not always be things that you can solve in the role, but sometimes that personal sacrifice can make a huge difference. So I was offered a position at the New York Times. And when I announced that I was leaving, she cried. She was the first one to cry. Like, everybody was super shocked because they knew how difficult she had been with me. She bawled. We are still friends to this day. But she was like, you were the only manager I ever had in my entire, and she's retired now too. She's like, you're the only manager I had ever had in my career who actually took an interest in me and tried to make my life and my role better. Like, I listened to her ideas and those type of things. So you just never know the kind of impact you can have on a person's life, right? In a simple role of just being an online editor or whatever your position can be. But my purpose in life is to help others. If I can't help them, I at least won't harm them. And so that translates into the work that I do, how I operate with the people that I work with, and then my own personal life and the things that I volunteer and involve with. So in that instance, I was able to help somebody else in a dramatic way that just made it so much better for her and for us. So when I got the offer with the New York Times, like, it was kind of a no-brainer. I had always said as a kid that the only way I was ever going to come back to New York, New Jersey was if I got a job at the New York Times. But I said it like tongue in cheek because I never thought that I would ever elevate to the New York Times. Like, that's the dream publication for any journalist to work at the New York Times. And here I was now 26 with a job offer at the New York Times. So I was like, okay, well, I guess this means I'm going back home. Like, this is the time that I'm supposed to come back home. I just didn't think it would happen in this way. I got to the New York Times, and initially they told me they were going to be doing a reorg. And because I already had management experience, I was going to be leading one of the new pods. So it was like an opportunity to go from being a big fish in a small pond, which was Atlanta, to being a small fish in a big pond with the opportunity to, within 3 months, take over a pod. It was not bad at all. I absolutely hated working at the New York Times. So this is the publication that like everybody dreams and aspires to get to, and I hated every moment of it. Like, oh my God, did I make a mistake? Like, can I try to go back to Atlanta? Like, what did I do? Because it was a bait and switch. Like when they did the reorg, I didn't get a pod. And so then I was like, well, what am I here for? And at this point I was back working in sports. And like I said before, sports is a grind. So let's take the Yankees. Let's say the Yankees were playing the Oakland A's. That's a 10 p.m. Eastern time start. The game is now rain delayed. I have to stay in until the game is done. And mind you, the paper has already gone to bed. They've put a little blurb like, for the full game recap, go on NewYorkTimes.com/Yankees. And so I am still in the office. And the beat writer doesn't want to get it in right away because he already knows the paper has gone to bed. So he's taking his time and whatever. And like, I'm sitting here like half asleep, like, oh my God, like when is this story going to come in? Because how it would work is when a game ended, I would write the first 3 graphs of the game recap because I was watching the game too. And then the AP wire story would come in and I would replace my story with wire copy. And then the staff writer was supposed to come in and I was supposed to edit his copy and post that over the story one more time. There would be plenty of times that the morning crew would be coming in and I'd still be there. So it was the ultimate grind and I was burning out really fast. I'm like, I'm 26 years old. I can't burn out. Like, this is crazy. So because I was working nights and again, going to Carolina, at Carolina, they always taught us the best way to get experience is to do an internship. So I'd always worked in newspapers and online newspapers, but I'd never worked in magazine or anything else. So I was like, well, I'm in New York City now, which is like the capital of all magazines. Let me try and get a magazine internship. Everybody thought I was crazy. They thought I was crazy or they thought I was lying because when they see my resume, they're like, okay, so are you an intern at the New York Times? Are you staff at the New York Times? I'm like, no, I'm definitely staff. They're like, well, why are you trying to get an internship? And again, I said to them, because the best way to get experience is to do an internship. So I've never worked in a magazine before. I would love to try. You don't even have to pay me. And they were like, actually, by law, we either you have to get college credit or we have to pay you. Like, we have to figure this out. Like, finally, it was Forbes magazine that decided to take a chance on me. Again, like I said, they thought I was crazy. They were like, so when exactly are you going to sleep? So I was working at Forbes magazine 9 to 4 every day. And then I'd be at the New York Times from 5:30 till whenever. Like I said, sometimes I didn't get off until the morning shift. I was hardly sleeping, but I loved every minute of it because of all the great experience I was getting working at a magazine. Like I literally got to see how the magazine comes together, which is something I just was never exposed to before because I was always on the newspaper editorial track and online track and not on the magazine track. In working there, I got to research 3 of the celebrities for the Celebrity 100 issue that comes out every July. And it just so happened that my 3 celebrities also got picked for the VH1 special that we would do in conjunction with the issue. So I got to be on television as well, talking about the 3 celebrities I had researched. Like, who knew that was what an additional opportunity would come out of me doing this internship, right? Also, every year, Forbes magazine puts out a list of the top dead celebrities, meaning celebrities who are dead and making the most money. I got to write that article, and that article gets featured twice. So it gets featured in the issue, and then it gets featured again in October around Halloween. And again, I got to talk about that too. So it just created all these other opportunities. Like I got to learn how a magazine comes together. I got to write multiple pieces that were featured in the magazine and on the website, and I got to do the TV special. Like, I was getting paid $10 an hour. It wasn't even about the money because I told you I would have done it. I was trying, I'll do it for free. I already have a full-time job. Like, I'll do this for free. But again, just having that experience helped to change the trajectory of my career. So when the internship ended, I was super depressed because I was like, all I have is the New York Times, and the New York Times it's a grind. So I just came in at a unique time at the New York Times. Like, one, they were going through this restructuring on the online team, but also it was the World Baseball Classic. It was the Olympics in Italy, Torino, plus all regular sports. So I was just working like crazy because we were doing all this international coverage of sports as well as covering the local teams. And I was literally burnt out. And so I was like, well, I know I haven't been, at this point, I'd been at the New York Times 7 months. I was like, I know I haven't been here long, but I can't make it much longer. So let me put my resume out there, see how long it takes. Who knows? I didn't have that much of a network in New York at that point, but I was like, let me just try. So I applied actually for a job at time.com. I did it through the corporate website. And even to this day, I still say if you have the right keywords, like, so first and foremost, you should try to have a referral or connection. But if you don't have that, make sure you have the right keywords in your resume. I applied on a Tuesday. I got a call on a Thursday. I interviewed on a Friday of the same week. Your keywords work. It also helped that I had the New York Times on my resume, not gonna lie. Like, certain publications definitely bring you up to the top of the pile. So I go in for the interview with the recruiter, and she was like, you're overqualified. I said, excuse me, what? I'm 26 years old at this point. I'm like, overqualified? Overqualified for what? I don't even know enough. Like, what? How can I be overqualified? Like, I was like, is this the end of my career? I'm already overqualified? Like, this is crazy. um, and she was like, but, okay, you're overqualified for that position at time.com, but I have this position that hasn't even been posted yet. You would be the first candidate, and I think you are perfect for it. What I'm about to tell you, none of you guys should ever do. How God must have been with me that day, because you should never do this. She said, the job is at Sports Illustrated. Before she could finish getting the word Sports Illustrated out of her mouth, I said, hell no. The recruiter said to me, wait, what did you say? I said, hell no. I am not trying to continue to work in sports. I was excited about this opportunity to get back into news. Hell no. Do never tell the recruiter hell no. Like, yeah, this woman, she just found it funny. She found it so funny. She's like, I get it. You're super burned out on sports. It'll be different. The schedule is not like that. She's like, just interview for the position. Just please, just go interview, have a conversation, whatever. And so the following Tuesday, I had my interview, and I honestly think I had the worst attitude ever, because I was just like, I don't want to keep working in sports. Sports is killing me. I hate this so much. But I killed in the interview, killed to the point that my boss, once I got hired, later told me that he literally used me as the barometer for who else he hired on the team. Because he was like, if they aren't at the Tiffany level, I don't want them, and I want her. So what do we got to do to get her too? But this is how I'm going to build out this team to surround and support her, because I need people like her. I honestly thought I did terrible, because I just wasn't in the best mind frame, because I hated working in sports at that point. Like I said, God was watching over me. So I took the role, and it was working as my SI sports producer. So what that meant is that Sports Illustrated was trying to go head to head with ESPN. ESPN has the customizable My ESPN. Sports Illustrated was trying to create something that was customizable to My SI. And so I helped to build and develop that from the ground up, team by team, sport by sport. And basically how we built it is that it was an aggregator. So with ESPN, when you go to their site, say for Carolina's page, it's only content from ESPN. When you did Sports Illustrated's page, it wasn't just content from Sports Illustrated. We pulled in from all the local newspapers. We pulled in from the top fan sites. But like, me and my team had to do all the research to make that happen. And initially, when I came in, we were like 3 equal people. Within 3 months, I was elevated to be manager and lead of the team, because I just had been working so long. I had managed teams before. I knew how to do the research, and the first sports categories that I launched did so well that I ended up becoming the manager of that team. And I loved working at Sports Illustrated. So back in the day, Sports Illustrated was known as the golden coffin, meaning like once you got there, you never left. People literally died at their desk because they loved Sports Illustrated so much. So I was ready to die at my desk because this was great. I mean, I loved everything I got to work on. My schedule was pretty reasonable. I worked mainly days and then every other weekend, but they fed us. I got car service home when I had to work nights and weekends. Like, I was chilling. It was the best. I had every single cable channel, direct TV channel at my desk. I literally had 2 TVs. Like, it didn't even get more awesome than that. I could see any game anywhere. It's just heaven for a sports enthusiast. So I loved it. And while I was there, the editor of Sports Illustrated took an interest in me. So Terry McDonald, he was just like, you are mind blowing, because how we connected is that he had this meeting with all the minority employees that worked at Sports Illustrated, and he gave that same old tired line of like, oh, we don't have more Black people and Hispanic people because we don't have the pipeline. But little did he know, I was very active and on the board of directors of the National Association of Black Journalists. So I had a folder of names of qualified people, both Black and Hispanic, because I also reached out to the Hispanic Journalism Organization. I had a list ready. So when he pulled that out, I said, raised my hands like, if you're looking for options, here you go. I slipped him the folder. Everybody in the room was looking at me like I was crazy because one, I was super junior, kind of new, and they're like, who is this woman who's willing to like put herself out there and whatever? So I slipped in the folder and he's like, what is this? I was like, you're looking for qualified candidates. Here is a list of qualified Black and Hispanic sports journalists that are actually available that you could potentially reach out to work at Sports Illustrated. So from that point on, we became fast friends because he was like, I need people like this, like to be bold enough to like, you're going to say there's a problem. I already got a solution to your problem. I was like, because I was just tired of hearing that there isn't this pipeline. There's plenty of people available. You just have to know where to look. Most people don't know where to look. And so to this day, me and Terry are very, very cool, very close friends. He's introduced me to his best friend, Jimmy Buffett. No lie, like random things like this. The man really, truly loves me because I'm just bold like that. And he was like, do you know the highest ranking Black person at Time Inc? I was like, no, why would I? I'm not exposed to that. He's like, no, I have to introduce you to her. He introduced me to her. She is to this day still one of my sponsor mentors. And as we got to know each other, she had me do this very interesting project. So at Time Inc., all the magazines were very siloed, meaning if you worked at Time, you didn't talk to people at Sports Illustrated. If you worked at Sports Illustrated, you didn't talk to people at People. You didn't talk to people at Real Simple. Like you didn't talk to the other people at other publications, which was really strange. We all like operated in our own little silos. So she gave me this project she said, I want you to go and meet someone at each of the publications that either does what you do or does what you would like to do next. She's like, set up coffee, set up whatever. This is what I want you to do. And it was really challenging. Like, luckily she helped me in terms of getting some names and figuring those out. And it took a lot to schedule that. Everybody's really busy, but I did this project. It took me about 6 months to complete it. At the end of doing that, she was like, I want you to write a job description for your next job, like what you think your next job should be. And you would think like, oh, that's a great opportunity. I was so frozen. I was like, I don't know, because I love being at Sports Illustrated. I don't want to go anywhere else. She was like, take Sports Illustrated out of the equation, take any publication out of the equation. What do you want your next dream role to be? I was like, okay. So I did the project, we edited, whatever. I thought it just like went into a file and, whatever. And she'd continue mentoring me in other ways. At the time, I was also working nights at MediaBistro.com. So I was a teacher's assistant. And within 6 months, I became a teacher myself. And so I taught intro to social media, advanced social media, intro to blog writing, advanced writing for the web, multiple classes. So I was teaching a lot of classes while also working during the day. As you can tell from my stories, I've always been a hustler. So one day I'm at Media Bistro and my manager there comes and she's like, Tiffany, don't you work at Time Inc? I was like, yeah, I work in Sports Illustrated and Time Inc. She was like, this role just came across that we're going to post on the site, but I think you should check it out. And I looked at the job and it was the job description I had written and the position was at InStyle within the same company. So I immediately called her up and I was like, did you share my assignment? She was like, what are you talking about? I was like, did you share my job description assignment? She's like, no, why would I do that? That was an activity between me and you. I just want you to be future thinking. I was like, because the job exists. Here's the description, it's at InStyle. She's like, you're playing, stop playing. I was like, I'm emailing it to you. Within 5 minutes, she called me back. She was like, I didn't do this. I promise you I didn't do this, but this is the job for you. And we're going to make sure you get this job. She immediately called the hiring manager for that role and was like, we already have this person. She's working at Sports Illustrated. You need to meet with her. Within 2 weeks, I had a new job within the company. So it was good to make a transition from one publication to another. But within 2 weeks, I had a whole new job. And so I went from working at Sports Illustrated to working at InStyle.com, and I ran the day-to-day operations of the website for 2.5 years. So I was at Sports Illustrated for 2.5 years, and then went to InStyle for 2.5 years. And it wasn't an easy transition. Again, none of these transitions are necessarily easy. So it was on a Friday, I was in my last, staff meeting at Sports Illustrated, and we were like talking about quarterbacks. I know all about quarterbacks. Like I'm in it. On Monday, one of my very first meetings was the 30 shades of pink for summer or something like that. And I don't know if y'all can tell, I don't wear makeup. I'm not really into fashion. That's just not my thing. And I was just like, oh my God, I've made another bad choice. Like, how did I end up here? I don't know anything about fashion or makeup or like shades of anything. I don't even wear makeup. What am I gonna do? So that literally that day, at the end of the day, I went to my manager and I said, I don't know if we made the right move. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, I was just in that meeting and I don't know anything about the shades of pink or red or anything like that. She was like, do you know how to put a website together? I was like, absolutely, in my sleep. She was like, do you know how to reach audiences with great storytelling through digital? I was like, for sure. I was like, or at least I thought I did. She was like, that's what I hired you for. She was like, I already have fashion editors and beauty editors and whatever that can do all that stuff. I need someone who can bring all their stuff together and present it in a way that is consumable for our customers and meets their needs. That's what I hired you for. So don't worry about the 50 shades or whatever. How are you going to package it and put it onto the website so that everybody gets it? It's like, all right. But luckily I had a great manager in that way because I was ready to call it quits and be like, take me back to Sports Illustrated. I don't want to do this. Right. So you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable sometimes because that's really where the growth happens and the great opportunities and challenges lie, or when you're comfortable being uncomfortable. Um, so again, I was with Sports Illustrated for 2.5 years. I was number 3 on the website running the day-to-day operations. At this point, I was 29 years old. Um, and I mean, I got to do incredible things at InStyle, but also around this time, my mother discovered that she had breast cancer. And I just couldn't continue to work at the pace that I was working at when I was working at InStyle because I was number 3. If something went wrong, they weren't calling number 2 and number 1, they were calling me. So I was sleeping with my BlackBerry, like I was very married to my job, right? And I couldn't do that and support my mother through her breast cancer battle. So I was like, I need to step off of this treadmill. And that was really hard for me because obviously I'd elevated, I had a huge team under me, all the type of stuff. And I was like, you know what? I need to be like an individual contributor somewhere. I need to go back to like true journalism of writing versus the managing strategy production end of it. So I started applying for jobs, and I didn't even, looking back on it, I probably should have had a conversation with my manager about it. We probably could have worked some things out, but I just felt like I needed something so drastically different and less demanding, and that no one was going to be able to pull back because they were so used to me always being available and always being on. And so the only way I'd be able to do it was to leave. I ended up getting a job at Inc.com. So Inc.com is a business publication based in New York, and my beat was technology and young entrepreneurs. But they gave me incredible flexibility in that I was able to go to the cancer center with my mom, and even I could do, like, they had Wi-Fi at the cancer center, but I was able to work from there. Like, I was able to really be there and support my mom through this time, while still doing great and interesting and creative work. I'd never worked in business or technology journalism before. So again, taking that leap, taking a stretch. And again, at the core, it's always about the great storytelling. And I was always really good at being able to tell great stories. And so that's why I thrived and did really well at Inc. And it's funny, the relationships I developed at Inc. have played out in life. So I'm going to fast forward just a little bit, or jump ahead and rewind for a second. But I wrote one of the very first articles about Uber before Uber was Uber. And the interview was done with Travis, the former CEO of Uber, in an Uber. I did one of the first interviews with the founders of Airbnb. Fast forward, I work for the founders of Airbnb. Like, I didn't know those people that I was covering as a journalist would turn out to be, potential business partners and future relationships that I would have for my own career, particularly being in marketing and journalism. Um, so when my mother got better, she said, I don't think you're as happy as when you were at InStyle. And you've always loved sports. Maybe this is the time for you to get back into sports journalism. And like, yeah, it was super comfortable. I can't say I was overly challenged at Inc. Like I said, it was that bridge position that I needed to be able to support my mom in this time. Um, and so I left Inc. to go to CBS Sports. Mind you, I'd never worked in television. So now I've worked in newspapers online, I've worked in magazines, and now I'm working in television. I never thought, and again, it was that experience of working on that project for VH1 and Forbes magazine that like helped with getting the CBS Sports position. And mind you, there was many years gap between that, but they looked back on that video and were like, she has presence, she gets it, and she knows social media. Uh, so fast forward, I was at CBS Sports for 2.5 years, covered March Madness, covered SEC football, NFL, golf, US Open, like all the major sports we had it. But I was burning out because again, I was working nights and weekends. Uh, Everybody loves March Madness, but March Madness for me is 18 to 20-hour days. You start to hate the things that you love. Like I started to dread the tournament coming up because I knew how much I was going to have to work. So the thing that ultimately pushed me was my health. So I was in the middle of working the Super Bowl and I got this weird rash on my arm and I just thought I was having an allergic reaction. Kind of find out I had shingles. I was only 30, how old was I at that point? 34 years old. 34-year-olds are not supposed to get shingles. That's a sign that you're under a lot of stress and duress. And my doctor was really like, you have to reduce your stress. You need to be doing something else. Like, what else could you be doing? Because this journalism thing isn't working for you anymore, at least not sports journalism. He was like, this is just the start. Like, it could get worse. You could have high blood pressure, like all this. You have to get out of this. And that was really hard because I loved what I did. I love sports. Obviously, I'm very much into it. Um, but I was like, okay, I need to look for a transition. And that's when I started considering marketing because I had already been doing social media, and social media is a great way to transition into other areas and aspects. And what it was is there was an agency that had reached out to me during the Super Bowl because they had gotten the contract from the New York, New Jersey host committee to run the social media. And again, we had talked and had conversations, but they're like, you're way too experienced and way too expensive. We can't work with you. But like, we'll keep you in mind for a future role. You hear that and you're like, I'm never going to hear from them again. Around the time that I found out that I had shingles, they reached back out to me and was like, actually, we have a role for you. It's doing social media marketing for alcohol brands. So I ended up leaving sports, and that was my last journalism job, to go into marketing full time. I was a digital marketing agency called Deep Focus, and I ran the social media accounts for 10 of the top alcohol brands within Pernod Ricard. So Pernod Ricard is Absolut, Malibu, Jameson, Kahlua. I had the top 10. Um, and that's literally how I was able to transition from journalism into marketing. I actually didn't stay at the agency that long because one of my friends who I went to Carolina with, he was a year ahead of me. I worked on his campaign to be UNC student body president. He was UNC student body president. And back then I had joked with him that I would follow him into hell. He's like, why the hell would you do that? I was like, because I know you will lead us to the other side. And so he, many years later, used that line against me and said, remember that time you said you'd follow me into hell? I was like, where are we going? He was like, I need you to come work with me at eBay because we're trying to build an influencer marketing program. You have done all this research at the agency for the brands that you worked on how to build influencer marketing programs. I need you to come and build this team with me. I was like, I'd never thought about California. I'm a very much diehard East Coast girl. I tell people, I'm a North Jersey born New Yorker. Like, I'm not leaving. But here I am in California 5.5 years later. So I started at eBay. I built an influencer marketing program from the ground up. Within 2.5 years, I went from having no team, no budget to a team of 12 people with a $35 million global budget running the US, the UK, and Germany with over 1,000 influencers and 100 premium publishing relationships, right? So I move quickly and I scale quickly. Because I've done that, I got recruited by Ancestry.com to build an influencer marketing program. And then ultimately I got recruited by Airbnb, which again was interesting because I, wrote about the founders when the company was just starting, literally when they only had 26 employees, to now become one of their employees. And so that's where my career journey is at right now. Given the global pandemic and the impact to travel, obviously, my job was impacted, but I don't see this as a bad thing. One, I was ready for it. So my thing is, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Pay attention. I was paying attention. It's like, okay, clearly travel's taking a hit. I work at a travel company. The third day of mandatory work from home, other recruiters were already starting to reach out to me because it was like blood in the water. They were like, oh, wait, Airbnb's not doing so well, but they have all these talented people. Let's start. So I've literally been having conversations with different companies and recruiters since the beginning of March. So I was always ready for it. But I'm using this time of unemployment, like previously I'd say fun employment. It's not fun employment. For me, it's my season of yes. So Shonda Rhimes has this book, Year of Yes, where she takes a year to say yes to things that she would normally say no to. This is my season of yes. I'm saying yes to things that I would normally say yes to. So for example, I got reached out to by the government for a fellowship. I would normally be like, I don't want to work for the government. I have gone ahead and applied for this fellowship. We'll see what happens. I never wanted to go to grad school. I'm now applying for executive MBA programs. I have my own business. My business didn't do well, which is why I took the position at Airbnb, because I was like, I tried for a bit to have my own marketing company. I was like, this is not working out. I miss the comforts of corporate, which is a regular paycheck and benefits. But my company has actually been popping. I have multiple contracts with different schools, which is quite ironic. So like one of my contracts is with Grambling University, another is with a nonprofit in Connecticut, another's with a school in San Francisco. I don't even have a website for my business. Everything has just been organic word of mouth, people reaching out to me. I am starting to, I won't say apply, but have further the conversations of potentially getting a full-time job. But like, there are so many different options I have available to me now. I don't know if I necessarily want to just dive right into working for another company again. And luckily I have the benefit of time and being able to like sit back and strategically choose what is the best move for me. Because again, the things that are important to me is that it has to be about great storytelling. What is storytelling involved in whatever role I take? Is an opportunity to build something from the ground up or take something that already exists and optimize it to scale. So that's for me what will determine what I do next, because then it also has to feed into my purpose. And like I said, my purpose in life is to help others. If the role I take on or the company I'm working for isn't helping others, it's not a company that I need to be working for. So that is my story. Sorry, I didn't leave much time for questions. If anything, connect with me on LinkedIn if we don't get to your questions. I'm always on LinkedIn now, especially now. And I just love to help Carolina students for sure, because you just never know who I may know that could help you. Or if you're thinking about things in a certain way, being like, hey, like, how did you go about deciding between X and X, or whatever the case may be. So I'm definitely here as a resource for you guys. And I appreciate you taking this time on a happy hump day to listen to my story.
Tiffany, thank you very much. That was tremendous. That was really interesting to learn about your career and where you've gone and all the different challenges, opportunities, things you sought out, kind of the pivots you made. I could probably come up with 100 questions to ask you, but I suspect our students have actually got some questions or some thoughts or some ideas. So I'm actually just going to pivot over. I see Ruth has raised her hand
Nice.
in learning how to get this, how to get Zoom meetings and things like this. The students are probably far more ahead than I am. Ruth, if you want to go ahead and unmute, you can ask your question.
Hi, Ruth. Oh, wait, you're back on mute. Okay,
there we
there
go.
you are.
Okay, awesome, lovely. Hi, I'm Ruth. I'm a senior on the reporting track, actually in journalism, but I had some marketing internships lined up this summer, so that's kind of why I'm here. And I'm also from Macon, Georgia, so when you said AJC, I was like, oh my gosh. But something that you alluded to a lot about is burnout, and particularly in magazine industry, which is kind of what I'm interested in fashion entertainment. What we're seeing right now in light of recent events is kind of an upheaval in journalism in which people are sharing their experiences, particularly Black journalists, and discrimination in the workplace. And just kind of the harsh conditions. And so, you know, this even kind of, there's a microcosm of this on campus as well, as if you're not working for the Daily Tar Heel or the predominantly white publications or the Times and things like that, right? That are just kind of arbitrarily held to the standard of excellence for some reason. then you're not going to be able to make it to that next level, right? You even said yourself that like you had the times that helped a little bit. So it's almost like, I guess my question is identifying when to leave those spaces and situations, or biting the bullet and sucking it up, because they're not Black publications for everybody. And so I'm kind of like grappling with that as I consider how I want to move about the industry.
So I don't know if this came across, but like my path has always been very non-traditional. So let's start with, I never worked at the Daily Tar Heel, and I was adamant about that I was never going to work at the Daily Tar Heel. So I actually interned at the News and Observer. So I got a role there so that I never had to work at the Daily Tar Heel. I just didn't like the leadership. I didn't necessarily always like how they were putting out. I definitely didn't like how they reflected Black people. And while I was there, they had Black editors. Mind you, it's hilarious because I used to go head to head with the two Black editors that were back to back while I was at Carolina. We are now friends to this day. And it's funny because they're like, you're always the one to challenge us. Rob Nelson, if you guys can ever have Rob Nelson come and talk, like, he was an editor of the Daily Tar Heel, was on a newscaster for ABC in New York, and now he's moved on to another new network in Chicago. But yeah, so don't ever think that you necessarily have to go the traditional route. It's not about where you work, it's about the work you do, right? So for me, I've always been able to leverage the great projects and things that I've gotten to work on. And it didn't necessarily matter what the publication was. Because honestly, the best work in my career was not done at the New York Times. I mean, I was only there for 7 months and I hated it. So the best work that I had to showcase was from other publications. And sometimes you have to create your own opportunity too, right? Like, you guys are fortunate you come up with a time where, you know, you can have your own Medium blog and things like that. Like, those things didn't exist for me. I mean, and even now, even though I'm not a journalist, I use LinkedIn articles a lot to be a way to like still share my journalism craft and like how I'm thinking about things. So like last week I put up an article about redefining work, because so for so many of us, work is about, oh, I work for this company, I get paid this much, and so on and so forth. And for me, not being employed right now, the work has changed and has evolved, and I'm just as busy as if I was getting paid to do what I do, but like I know there's a lot of long-term benefits, and I'm planting a lot of seeds in the process. So as you can see, like for me, every place you work, and this is for everybody, every place you work is a tour of duty. What I mean by that is that when you go someplace, you get as much as you can get from them, and you give as much as you have to offer. But when you feel you've gotten all you can get, it's time to move on. And that's okay. As you can see, I've had many tours of duty. I've been at many different places. I've gained from them, they gained from me. And like when I felt like I wasn't learning, growing, or had an opportunity to advance is when I moved on. And so that's really how you should look at it, is like, am I still gaining something from this? Is there still things that I could potentially learn? And if the answer is no, that's when you know it's time to move on.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for the question, Ruth. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm going to be looking for all of y'all. In fact, I'm about to take a screenshot of this so I can check to see who actually sends me a request.
Great. We got the next question. Baez, I'm going to say, if only because that's the only way to pronounce that word. But
Baez. I go with Baez.
Baez, okay.
But you talked about building your network even with recruiters, and you've obviously have recruiters reaching out to you right now, having job positions for you. Do you have any tips on how to like stay connected with recruiters?
Yes. So two things. One, I don't just have the network. I also have my own personal board of directors. My personal board of directors consists of people who are advisors, people who are mentors, and people who are sponsors. People who are sponsors are like high level CMO, editor, editor-in-chief type people who they can't have regular conversations with me, but I always keep them in the loop of what I'm doing. So that's like usually once a month, I'll send some kind of email update or try to get 30 minutes on their calendar just to give them an update of what I'm doing. Sponsors, their role is when an opportunity is available, you are top of mind and they think of you. So they're not going to talk to me every day, text me every day, anything like that. But when an opportunity comes up because they're a sponsor, they keep me in mind. You need sponsors. Mentors. My mentors are the people who I do regularly talk to. So they're truly engaged in like where my career is going, what I'm doing. And, they're not just mentors in the professional sense, they are family to me. So I say friends are the family that you choose. Anyone that's in my network is my family. And so my mentors are family too. So like they know what's going on with my mama, right? But they also know what's going on with my career, right? And so I have regular conversations with them. And then advisors are people who I see them as specialists. So for example, one of my advisors, we've been actually talking more frequently, and again, he's not a mentor to me, he's an advisor. I know he knows a lot about grad schools and MBAs and MBA programs because of the boards that he sits on and things like that. So he's in my life because he has that specialist role for that as being an advisor. I have another advisor who has her own marketing company. And so I reach out to her for things like that when it's related to how I'm operating my business. Again, she's not a mentor. She's literally advisor when I have a very specific question or need related to what her specialization or any of their specializations are. So with the recruiters that I've always kept in touch, it was the same thing of like every so often dropping them a line of like something that I'm working on, highlighting a particular project. And I kept a running list. So I had it tiered out. So I had my tier A, like these are the dream publications that I would like to work at. I really need to make sure that I keep these relationships tight. And then I had a tier 2 where it's like, if I work there, great. If not, it's not that big of a deal, but I'm going to highlight different things that I see or even that's relevant to their thing. Or a lot of times I'd be like, oh, are you going to this particular event? If you are, I'd love to get some coffee time with you. So utilizing the in-person opportunities, but especially now, like doing Zoom coffee chats are so much easier to schedule and get on people's calendars to do. So they're not as busy because they're not traveling to all the job fairs and things like that. So that's a great way to be in conversation with them and to still be top of mind. So that's definitely how to work that network. So again, your tier 1 and tier 2 of recruiters and like, having real conversations with them, but then also formulating your board of directors. Because the best part about sponsors is like, I don't have to be in the room for them to bring me up, talk about me, pitch me, that type of thing. And you want to have all levels of those type of people in your life to help guide your career. I mean, they also help guide my personal life. Like career decisions can be personal decisions. Making the move from New York to California was very much a personal and professional decision. And I talked to as many of my advisors, mentors, and sponsors before I decided to take the job at eBay and make the move across country because it was going to have an impact on my family, moving that far away from my mom. When I had really originally told y'all I wouldn't take a job if it was this far away from my mom does not fly. She's never been to California, right? But I had to factor all of that into my decisions. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Caroline, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I just graduated from journalism school in advertising, and it seems like you're just a natural born hustler. And do you have any advice for someone that hustling isn't really in their natural instinct? I would love it to be, but I feel uncomfortable, sometimes directly reaching out to people, or like if I'm at a job or something, directly connecting with them. So if you have any advice in how to be a hustler without being a natural born one.
So for you, it's not going to be about being a hustler. It's going to be about showing that you are a thought leader. And this is how you do that. You are going to utilize LinkedIn in a way that a lot of people do not actually capitalize on it. So you should be looking for articles or things that you can share or speak to show that you have thought leadership in those areas and post it within LinkedIn. And with LinkedIn, there's 2 opportunities. You can do it as a post. So if there's just a link and you only have like a paragraph or something that you want to talk about, do it as a post. Or going deeper into the topic and doing an actual article on LinkedIn. That LinkedIn's platform is very good about, especially if you put hashtags on it, helping to surface it to different people. So there's a lot of people who are not direct connections to me. In fact, most of them tend to be like third connections that are finding the posts and LinkedIn articles that I'm writing and like commenting on it, liking it, sharing it, reaching out to me through it. So that's one way to be able to build that, is by showing that you are a thought leader. Like, I'm really interested in advertising. Whether it's an article you saw in the New York Times or an article from Advertising Week, or just your own take or commentary on a particular ad, like, oh, did you see the ad that Pepsi did? I mean, I think this was great, but this is what they could improve upon. Like anything to show that you are an expert in that area is how you'll help to elevate your own profile. So definitely utilize LinkedIn for that platform, because you would be amazed at how the algorithm works to get your content out in front of people that are not in your direct like connections. And connect to me, I also have a big network, so that definitely helps. The network effect definitely helps. I say to people, like, you know, I have like 2 degrees of separation from pretty much anybody, including Michelle Obama. God, I hope this actually happens.
Thank you.
Anyone
Sorry.
else with questions?
Hi, I don't know how to raise my hand on this, so I'm just gonna speak. My name is Whitnessa. I am I guess a junior now, on the ad PR track, and I
Yes.
recently kind of transitioned. I've always thought about like marketing and advertising and stuff in high school, but I just never had a chance to like pursue it until I got to Carolina, and then I like changed like my whole like life trajectory last semester. And I think I really want to work in like intersections of like technology, media, and culture, somewhere there, like social media, like brands and stuff like that. And sometimes it can just like, I don't know any, like all my family works in healthcare. So like I don't know anybody or like anybody with my immediate circle who I can like reach out to or talk to. So I've really been leaning on my peers, but sometimes like I feel like, you know, when thinking about internships and reaching out to recruiters and talking to people, like those opportunities that I want for myself sometimes feel so far like away from where I am, you know? So it's kind of like, especially like as a Black woman and working in being in media or wanting to be in tech, it's just so daunting. Kind of almost like imposter syndrome. So how like I just like would like advice on like though getting those opportunities that I want, but also making myself stand out from the crowd, you know, being like I'm here and like I'm passionate, or I can do the work. And sometimes like you know you can do the work, but like you don't often feel like people, you know, see like what you see in yourself, like that you're capable. You just need the opportunity or chance to show up, you know?
Yes. So this is where you have to be shameless. And so I am shameless. So I'll give you an example of one of the people that's on my board of directors who is now one of my sponsors. So at the time I was working at CBS Sports, and she was leading the social media for the Grammys. And it was the year that the first time that it was back in 2012 when the Grammys really started killing it on social media and like leading the charge. Like no one had been using social media integrated into programming, particularly live award shows, in the way that the Grammys was. So when I found out it was a Black woman running it, I was like, oh, I have got to meet this woman. So one caveat to take from this story: make the list of the people who you want to connect with. So she was on that list, and I noticed that she was literally going to be in New York at an event. I took the day off, made sure I was at the event, sat in the front row. I'd also been tweeting her prior to this. She wasn't responding because she was like, who is this crazy person that's always tweeting me? But like the things I tweeted to her weren't just random. It would be like, oh, I saw this article about how the Grammys did blah 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 blah. Can you tell me how you did this? Or like it was always inquisitive or like sharing of information type of stuff. So I went to the event, sat front row. When it came Q&A time, I shot my hand up, had the very first question, and she was kind of like, this woman is stalking me. Oh my God. But like she was impressed with my question, and like afterwards we met and she was like, so you've been the one that's been following me on Twitter? I was like, yeah, I mean, I just think everything you're doing is great. I want to be like, so she then realized that I wasn't stalker crazy. It's just I was really enthusiastic. And at the time I was 32, so it's not like I was super young, right? She's literally like a sponsor, like one of my bestest friends now. Like she's big sister gorgeous one. I can go to her house and stay for the weekend. It's not a thing, but I had to be shameless. I had to go and pursue people that I wouldn't necessarily be able to reach otherwise, to be able to have conversations. And so she was literally one of the people I had on the list. In this case, I went the Twitter route. I wouldn't necessarily go the Twitter route in this period of time. I would go the more professional LinkedIn way of connecting and trying to reach out and make those connections to people. But if it's not a list of people that you necessarily know you want to connect with, start with the companies that you're interested in and see who works there. And it's very easy to figure that out through LinkedIn. See who works there, see who knows someone who might know someone who works there, and make the connections and inroads that way, because it really is about those internal connections to be able to move things forward for yourself. But yeah, so either make a company list and start figuring out who to connect with, or a list of people if you already have some people in mind of like, this is who I want to connect with because, you know, I know that they're a great leader or they're in a career position that I want to have. And when you reach out to them, say that. It's like, I admire what you've been able to do in your career. I would love to be able to have a Zoom coffee chat with you. Can you take, 30 minutes of your day or something like that? Like, a lot of people are open and willing to that, especially if you're complimenting them and showing that you're like paying attention to something they've done, or article they've written, or a project they've launched, or just the fact that they have elevated in their career in a way that you admire.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for staying over on time too. I appreciate that.
It's okay. Taylor has got a hand raised. Go for it, Taylor. Can you?
Hi. Hi, my name's Taylor. I just graduated. I wanted to ask more about, I guess, your work with web design, and like, have you ever considered doing freelance web design instead of just going down like and doing the company track?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so the hard part of being being a solopreneur is that everything is on you, right? So you have to pitch the clients. Once you get the clients, you're the one doing all the work. You're also the one doing all the billing and everything like that. And so, like, I'll give you an example. When I initially launched my marketing company last year, I launched it in March of last year, and it was a lot of hustle. Like, I literally had one client that was a cannabis client in LA. Like, I would have to go down to LA to get my money in cash. That's not the most effective or efficient way to do business, is by like having to go and collect your checks. Right? So, but if you have a passion for it and you know you can make those inroads, yes, that's definitely an opportunity, an area where people still need people. Like, yes, there's plenty of websites like Squarespace and things like that, whatever, but most people really don't know how to set it up, and they would like someone to at least initially get them started. So that is definitely a route you can go. For me, some of my web skills became obsolete. Like, nobody's a Flash designer anymore. like Flash is the worst thing ever, but like that was where my area of expertise lied. And then also, a lot of the times, every company I work for had their own proprietary content management systems. So honestly, it's like, if you've worked with one, you've worked in them all. They all have their little tweaks or whatever to them. But that's what I was doing on the back end production. And even still, like, web design and web work is still very much a part of what I do. Even at Airbnb, I was building entire campaigns within the website using the tools that we had available. So I've never really gotten away from website production, even in my marketing stuff. It's just not what people think of when they think of marketing. But no, I'm building campaigns within websites all the time. I live in CMSs every day. So it is very much an intrinsic part of what I have to do for marketing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Taylor. Anybody else?
Going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay, well, Tiffany, thank you very much. Oh, hang on, Taylor, have you still got your hand up? No, okay, just checking. Tiffany, thank you very much for taking the time to chat to us, to answer the questions, to tell us about your career and the opportunities and the challenges and all these kind of things that you come across. It's been very interesting for me to learn about this and to think about this. And I'm certain the students, and a few of them have had to head off already, and they've, so it's been really useful. So I don't know if you want to do if you can figure out how to do the virtual. There's a virtual applause somewhere in there, maybe in a reaction.
Oh, it's in reactions.
Yes, there we go. So
I would say one closing thought I would give is, like, definitely in this time where it seems like there might not be a lot of opportunities and there's more challenges, always remain flexible. Be open to pretty much anything. You never know what opportunity can lead to something else. Like, for example, I was asked a couple of years ago to speak to students at Grambling. Grambling is now one of the schools that is hired my company to work for them, right? So you just never know what the opportunities could lead to, and the relationships you have today, what that could lead to tomorrow. But in this environment, be flexible, because if you are flexible, that is how you will continue to get ahead. Don't feel like, oh, because I'm not going the traditional route of like, I'm out of college, now I have to go and get a job. Like, there are lots of different ways and opportunities to craft a career for yourself. It doesn't necessarily have to be the traditional route. And please, 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 I am not kidding. Add me on your LinkedIn. Like I said, if you know me, you have like 2 degrees of separation from a lot of people you would never otherwise think that you'd have contact to. And that's the important part of having that network. I'm always down to do an introduction for someone to someone else, to help you to get to what you need or the information that you need to have. So please, please, please add me on LinkedIn and let's stay connected, because I want all Tar Heels to do well. Especially I want us to do well, better than Dookies. And like, so let's show them that our network is way more powerful than theirs. And like, we can go on to build and do greater and better things. But it really is tapping into this amazing alumni community that exists. So please connect. Thank you for taking the time today. I super appreciate it, because time is more valuable to me than money, because you can't gain more, save it, earn more. Time is what it is. So for you guys to have dedicated your time today to listen and speak with me, I greatly appreciate. Stay healthy, stay safe, connect with me.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Tiffany.
So much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.